I'm here with Isaiah right now, who is the team captain for the Rainbow Six Siege team. Has been in the program for what now? 2 years?
3 years.
3 years, yeah. 3 years. And so I feel like you're the perfect person to start off because you've been around the block and you know how esports has been going for the past 3 years. So I wanted to start off by asking you, what is your single favorite memory that you've had from doing esports so far?
From doing esports in general, or just like a game time, or
In general.
with team?
In general, anything that has stood out to you?
I think it would be my first year when I got to meet who is it? Rambo and Easy.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like just super welcoming. Oh, and Zamir too. Yeah. They were all just super welcoming. They were super hyped about playing R6, the game that I played. But yeah, it was just a super warm welcome. And we just started off from there, and we ended up doing calls not every day, but every week over the weekend. We just played R6 for like an hour. Then we just talked about random stuff.
So you were talking about like you were playing R6 outside of practice.
Outside of practice, and then with the team, we just ended up going into random things.
Are you still in contact with those guys now?
We did go into contact with Ram yesterday. Not so much Easy and Bo.
Yeah. Is there a specific moment from training or just being in the program that stood out to you as something you'll never forget?
First year when we got too loud and we had to go run laps around the track. It's probably the best.
Isn't it weird how it seems to be such a common issue where you're in the lab and you're in a game and the guys next to you are just like
Screaming.
So distracting?
Yeah. Like Valorant, they were screaming last year, and League also last year. And the first year I was here, it was Rocket League, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was just across from us? Yeah.
So you could have really chosen anything as far as extracurricular. You've told me that you're a part of robotics.
Mm-hmm.
What made you decide to prioritize esports over, say, soccer, football, any of those other things?
Just not into soccer or football, and esports is just something I like doing. Just playing games.
Did you go in with the expectation that Rainbow Six in particular was the game that you wanted to play?
Yes.
Why is that?
I didn't have as much experience with the other games because I didn't have a computer or a laptop to play on. And I did play Rainbow Six on console before I transferred over to PC.
How was that transition going from playing on... Well, how long did you play on controller before you started PC?
I played on controller since Mozzie and Gridlock, so 3 years on controller, right? Yeah, mm-hmm. So about 3 years on controller.
So that's 3 years. That's 3 years on controller and now 3 years off.
Yep.
Technically. Wow. How would you compare those two?
Controller is definitely a little harder to aim, but PC or keyboard and mouse is better in my opinion. Just because of the quick.
When you first started on mouse and keyboard, did you think, oh, this is going to suck?
Yeah, I was there doing this and I could not aim for the life of me. It was too hard. It's
crazy too, for context. So I haven't been a part of the program for a year. And when you started off, like you had to figure everything out from mechanics to building game sense, which you had a little bit from console, but I mean, understanding how to play the game again on a different format was a whole deal. And now I'm back this year, and it's like watching a different person play completely. So hopefully that's some inspiration to people out there who are like, I don't want to do mouse and keyboard because it's just too hard.
Right.
Do you foresee esports having a place in your life in the future, either, I don't know, competitively or as something that you want to like continue pursuing in some way, shape, or form after high school?
After high school, I'm definitely just going to play video games. If I can, I would go to college and play esports if they do offer it. But other than that, I'm just going to play video games in general. Probably stick with R6 or move on to something else like Smash or something.
For sure.
Yeah, but if probably not professionally, because I want to become an engineer since I'm in robotics.
That's your focus.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm curious now, has esports in any way supported your journey as an engineer or at larger as a student?
Somewhat yes, because I look at, as an engineer, or as studying under engineers, I looked at the gadgets in R6 and wondered if I can make these in real life and how would I do it and all that kind of stuff. Like my friends in the engineering and robotics clubs and class, we always play R6. Like that's.
Oh, really? So they're all into it too?
They're all into it too. They just don't want to play esports.
Because of the competitive aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah. In R6.
Oh, in R6?
How viable is it to actually create any of those fictional gadgets that you see based on your knowledge as an engineer in real life?
It'd be an interesting idea, but it probably won't be practical. Like the Valkyrie cams, how they stick on the walls, you'd need to have
some crazy adhesive
and
on all sides.
And a very good throw, too.
Yeah.
Because you can't have half of the thing adhesive and half of it not. So even if you do throw it in, let's just say, the corner, it wouldn't stick very properly if you threw it too hard. If you threw it too hard, it would crack open. And if you had to put adhesive all over, it would make the camera blurry and it won't be as crystal clear.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. And if the camera is too fragile and you have a good throw, the whole thing would shatter.
Yeah. If you're pitching like at MLB speeds, there's no way the camera can survive.
Yeah, you don't really think about it when you're in the game because you're just playing. But then when you look at it from an engineer's perspective, it's like, this is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I know a lot of parents get their kids into esports mainly because they just want to be supportive. They know that their son really enjoys video games and they see an opportunity for him to connect with other guys who share that similar interest, but they don't necessarily play or understand the games or anything like that. How do your parents feel about your time in esports and your time in the program?
She was confused my first year, or before I came into esports. I was going to do it my 8th grade year, but I didn't end up doing it because it was too long of a drive. But she was confused why I wanted to do esports instead of like a physical sport. I just said because I find it enjoyable, more enjoyable than the physical sport. And after that, she just started asking me, or when she saw me playing, she started asking me about the game, and she was kind of getting a little more interested into it.
Really?
So
your mom knows how Siege works, kind of?
Some. Yeah, a little bit.
Her son picked one of the most complicated esports to get into.
Yeah.
So it's harder to explain than some of the others. If esports hadn't been an option, do you know which physical sport you would have opted for?
Probably box lacrosse. It's a subset of lacrosse, but it's done during the esports season. I think I did it my 8th grade year. Yeah, it was during 8th grade year, and it was during esports season.
How many
that's probably what I've done.
Years did you do it?
Just one. I didn't.
Just 8th grade?
I didn't like box lacrosse. I like regular.
Oh, okay. What's the difference?
So the difference is box, you're in a confined space, and if you throw the ball out, like let's just say hockey, if you throw the ball out, it's going to bounce off the wall and it's still in play at all times. In regular lacrosse, if you throw it out, stops, you get you get to throw it back in, you get to go back in, and just keeps going. And box lacrosse is much more contact heavy, and it's not on turf.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you find any crossover in your experience from playing esports with when you've played sports in real life?
I've noticed that my reaction time is a little bit better, and that I'm able to think things through a little better too. Not only because of esports, but because of game knowledge. So,
has lacrosse served with esports at all for you?
Made me active. It got me a little into shape, but not much.
Yeah.
Yeah. It helps keep me in shape, and it gets my mom happy that I'm not just sitting around.
For sure. Yeah. And I am a firm believer that if you're getting a good workout, you're eating healthy, getting your sleep and all that stuff, that is going to help you play games as well. Even though, most people think you're just sitting there, like how much effort does it really take? I think there's all sorts of other factors that come into play. in regards to how you take care of yourself that will influence things like your reaction time, your patience, because you know how you can get in that lab where you're surrounded by guys and they're like getting tilted over one thing
Random
or
things.
another. How do you deal with that? Like, have you ever had a moment in esports where you're like, dude, I can't stand this guy right now?
Yes. I don't remember who.
You don't
or
have to
what
name
was
names,
exactly
but
is.
but
Yeah.
just
But it was a time during practice where I was thinking, this is going way too slow. We have to speed this up. Why are we taking so long?
okay. How did you want to react versus how you actually reacted?
I would have liked to yell at him, but I know I couldn't do that because I was fresh on the team. So I just kind of stayed there, let him talk for like 2 more minutes. Then once I knew coach was getting mad, I tried to intervene and say, "Hey, we have to cut it out. We have to get back on track." So
I'll be honest, I don't even remember this occasion. I remember this happened, but I'm glad you had your head on your shoulders at the time.
yeah.
Were there any other games that you were tempted to play besides R6 when you first started? Like, were you open to any other options?
No, because all of them were mainly laptop games, or sorry, PC games, and I didn't have a Nintendo Switch for Smash. So it was just mainly R6.
I see. No interest in Valorant,
No, not really.
even though it's a shooter.
Even though it is a shooter, it's more like CSGO. I like the CSGO aspect of it, but it's just too fantasy for me.
Too fantasy.
Too fantasy.
Too fantasy. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about afterwards. So you mentioned that as far as esports go, you're going to play games for fun, and I'm sure you'll look back and you'll think like, oh, you know, we had some fun times while we were training at school. But where are you planning to go afterwards? I know you said a little bit before what they were, but can you remind me again?
Of the schools I want to go to after this?
Yeah.
Probably Georgia Tech, Texas Tech. I'm going to apply for MIT just because. And Cal Poly or Cal State Fullerton. One of
Is
those.
MIT your number one choice?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
And what specifically would you be majoring in? When you
Electrical engineering.
electrical engineering?
Probably microboard or circuit boards or power systems.
If they have an esports program there, would you do it?
Probably, yes.
Yeah. What if it was Valorant and not Siege?
I'd consider it, but I'm not that good at Valorant. That's the only thing.
I mean, you started off and you didn't know how to play Siege, so you got good at it. So, do you feel like the progression that you've made has been proof that you can do a bunch of different things? Like, have you noticed the difference, I should say, between how you started versus how you play now?
Oh yeah, because my first year on mouse and keyboards, I couldn't aim at all. I didn't know how to move. Now I can aim consistently. And I know how to do really not complex things, but somewhat advanced things.
What would you say is the one thing that helped you improve the most as far as your aim?
My aim, probably a prems thing.
Really? Oh, thank God that actually worked. Thank God. I'm so happy. That, you know, it's weird in esports because there's so many times where someone has an opinion, whether they're a coach or not, on how something gets done or how something can be improved. And it differs so much from another person because they learned a different way. And then there is this elitism aspect of, what do you mean you use AimLab? Or what do you mean you do prems? Like, that's something from a YouTube video. Whereas, you know, my mentality is whatever works, works. So I found that specific thing was really helpful for me, and I'm glad it was helpful for you.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times people think too much about aiming as I'm like trying to find a head on the screen or trying to find that character I'm shooting at. But really it's just about having your crosshair placed in the right area at all times and letting the person walk into it.
it.
Yeah. It takes so much bandwidth off the load off of you to figure those things out.
Yeah.
I'm really happy to hear that. Are there any other aspects in esports that helped you improve either in the game or outside of gaming in general?
Just playing the game and looking at content, pretty much. Like, what is it? The Prems thing helped a lot. I played like 700 hours now. So
Of Siege?
of Siege.
Yeah.
And just playing that much gets you not only knowledge, but it gets you different ideas. Like, what was it? Using your gadgets and placing your gadgets or any other utility in different areas that you normally wouldn't see, or making different site setups or doing anything. It's just trying different things and seeing if they work or not. And if it doesn't work, what can I take from it? If it does work, I'll add on to it.
Do you find that parallel in robotics at all?
Yes. Like,
You have to be creative.
you have to be very creative because we're not given a set, like, you build this. We have to think of it, we have to make it.
So it's kind of like you have to do your site set. Well, the advantage in Siege is that there's a lot of very set boundaries, rules to the game, and it gets clear pretty early on how far you can cross those. Where with robotics, it's like, who knows what you could make, right?
Because the only rules we have to follow is the certain dimensions. I'm talking about robots. The certain dimensions of the robot and the weight class. While Siege, there's always going to be a wall here. There's always going to be a window right here. There's always
until they change the map.
Until they change the map. But yeah, if you can figure out different site setups or different ways of working your utility, that will help immensely in both real world and in any video game, really.
This is a question I haven't asked anyone yet in this program, and I'm curious to hear your response. Have you found that dealing with other people in a team setting like esports has been useful to dealing with other people in, say, robotics or sports? Because I know this is going to happen to most people. They're going to go into a job and they're going to have to handle different types of personalities, which you may not get along with, or people just, there's drama and all sorts of things. Do you feel like training in the program has given you a glimpse or helped prepare you in any way for those situations?
Yeah, it working with people in not only a team aspect, but in any aspect, it helped me at least work on my talking. Because back when I was a freshman, I didn't talk at all. Like, even during practice, all I did was, hey, there's a guy in this room, or hey, I'm going to go do this.
And for context, we're lucky if we got some people to even say just that.
Right. But now I'd say I'm much more open to talking with people and socializing. So even if you're not doing that and you're already very good at that, working with people in teams allow you to not only expand your vocabulary, but it also allows you to get a glimpse into what they're thinking and see how you can either work around it or work with it. So
that's very eloquently put, I think. And it's a simple thing that we kind of take for granted, like talking. How hard is it to talk, And it turns out it's actually pretty hard when you've got all kinds of stimuli happening in the game. You've got other things going on in the lab that you have to focus in not only on what your job is, but how you are supporting the guys around you in real-time pressure, basically, which thankfully most people don't have to deal with that on a day-to-day basis at their job unless they were in a very stressful job.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's just a game. If you guys lose the round, you can play the next one and learn from it. And then you take those lessons and you can apply them to wherever you go after that, with your friends, your family, your workplace. So I know for me that is, I think volleyball set the precedent for developing my communication. And then when I got to esports, I realized, this is an important skill that these guys need to learn. And it's not going to happen automatically or magically. So Well, I'm grateful for two things. Prems worked for you, and you got to talk more. So, Isaiah, thank you so much. I really appreciate talking with you today and getting to pick your brain a little bit about what it's like to be a part of esports. Maybe down the line we'll do another one of these if you're down, and if there's new information that comes to light that you want to share, you're like, hey, Coach Rome, I have an idea.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it or something. So, thank you so much, dude.
No problem.
Yeah.